Breaking tonight in a campaign like no other. We have witnessed a debate unlike anything we've ever seen, marked by intense anger, serious accusations, and even a group of Bill Clinton's alleged sexual assault victims brought into the debate hall to support Donald Trump. And it all comes as Mr. Trump tries to turn the page on his own problems with women, thanks to a videotape that has been the talk of the nation. Welcome to the Kelly File, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly, reporting tonight from St. Louis in Spin Alley. We've got a lot to get to tonight, not the least of which is the second of 3 presidential debates. The debate got off to an ugly start early, with the candidates barely acknowledging one another on the stage, even refusing to shake hands. Moments in, talk turned. Watch. Look at this. Just the nod. Talk turned to that tape of Donald Trump that surfaced just over 48 hours ago, in which he and NBC's Billy Bush of Access Hollywood formerly spoke about women in lewd terms. Here's part of what Mr. Trump had to say about that tape.
We received a lot of questions online, Mr. Trump, about the tape that was released on Friday. As you can imagine, you called what you said locker room banter. You described kissing women without consent, grabbing their genitals. That is sexual assault. You bragged that you have sexually assaulted women. Do you understand that?
No, I didn't say that at all. I don't think you understood what was said. This was locker room talk. I'm not proud of it. I apologize to my family. I apologize to the American people. Certainly I'm not proud of it. But this is locker room talk. You know, when we have a world where you have ISIS chopping off heads, where you have, and frankly, drowning people in steel cages, where you have wars and horrible, horrible sights all over, where you have so many bad things happening. This is like medieval times.
Just for the record, though, are you saying that what you said on that bus 11 years ago, that you did not actually kiss women without consent or grope women without consent?
I have great respect for women. Nobody has more respect for women than I do.
So for the record, you're saying you never did that?
I said things that, frankly, you hear these things are said. And I was embarrassed by it. But I have tremendous respect for women.
Have you ever done those things?
Women have respect for me. And I will tell you, no, I have not.
Remember, this was supposed to be a debate focused on the issues, one in which Trump supporters hoped he could turn his campaign around, fix his mistakes from the first debate, and focus on Hillary Clinton's shortcomings. Instead, most of the opening half hour was largely spent focusing on personal attacks and that Trump tape. Here's a quick reminder of what he said that caused the controversy back in 2005.
I gotta use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the. You can do anything.
But Hillary Clinton was not out of the woods herself. Remember, on the same day the Trump tape dropped, WikiLeaks dumped a bunch of documents that it says show excerpts of her paid speeches that she has refused to release. And it appears to suggest that she says one thing in public and something else in private. We're going to get to all of this and ask the big questions with the packed lineup of guests tonight. In moments, we'll be joined by Frank Luntz and his focus group of undecided voters. Wait till you hear what they have to say. Right after that, we'll hear from campaign insiders, including Trump campaign manager Kellyanne Conway and his national spokesperson Katrina Pearson. Also going to be joined by Charles Krauthammer and many others, but we begin the night with Chris Stirewalt, co-host of Perino and Stirewalt, I'll tell you what, and Howie Kurtz, who's host of Media Buzz on Fox News. Great to see you both. What'd you think?
Well, Donald Trump, it's funny. If you imagine that the sex tape thing hadn't happened, if that, or the hot mic thing hadn't happened, we would be telling a whole different story about Donald Trump today. We'd be saying he was more disciplined, he was better prepared, da-da-da-da-da, the comeback for Donald Trump. But because he failed to move the inventory on that, because he batted it away as opposed to showing a contrite heart, and because he brought the people in who were Bill Clinton's accusers and made that the headlines tomorrow, and the story coming out of this is going to be all about that. It's going to be all about that stuff, and it's going to overshadow his improved performance.
Howie, the moderators took a beating in some circles tonight. What did you think of how they did?
I thought they were more aggressive with Donald Trump than with Hillary Clinton, particularly when Martha Raddatz started debating Donald Trump about Syria policy. She is an expert on that. Look, I thought Donald Trump got off to a rocky start before the debate with this sort of strange press conference with Paula Jones and other Bill Clinton accusers. I thought he had some tough moments in that searingly personal first half hour when he strangely pivoted from just locker room talk to beheading of ISIS, and then said, by the way, Hillary should be in jail.
Like, I'm going to be strong. He's maintained this all the time, that his attacks on people prove how strong he is.
Right, but after that, Megyn, he seemed to find his rhythm. Hillary was a little bit more on the defensive as the conversation turned more to her record. And by the end of it, I think he battled back to a draw. When you consider the sheer media hell that Donald Trump has been through in the last 48 hours, that has to be considered at least a moral victory.
You know, I don't know if he considers it hell. He had a quote over the weekend to the Washington Post saying, you know, it's called life. You know,
Right.
things happen. It's called life, which is actually kind of a nice 30,000-foot perspective from somebody who's under fire,
Right.
handling it pretty gracefully under the circumstances. But obviously that ignores the content of what we saw and how repulsive so many Americans found it. And you tell me, Steyerwalt, whether anybody is going to get past that first 30 minutes in the rundown tomorrow.
So this was a debate for his base. He turned in the performance that his base would have wanted. He attacked on the sex stuff as opposed to showing contrition. He focused on issues that they were into. But I want to tell you that right near where we are here in suburban St. Louis, the voters who he needs are right here. They're suburban white people with college degrees who have been reticent to support Trump. He didn't give them anything tonight. He gave his base a nice, happy feeling. If you like Donald Trump, this was a primary debate performance, not so much a general election
And
debate
to that point, here's just a little bit of the anger that we captured on tape tonight. Watch.
It's just not true, and so please
Oh,
go
you didn't delete him?
Allow her to respond, please.
Personal emails, not official.
33,000?
Not well. We turned over 35,000, so
Oh, yeah.
it was.
What about the other 15,000?
Please allow her to respond. She didn't talk while you talked.
Yes, that's true. I didn't.
Because you
I
have
didn't
nothing
in
to
the
say.
first. Okay, Donald. I know you're into big diversion tonight. Anything to avoid talking about your campaign and the way it's exploding and the way Republicans are leaving you. But let's
let's
at
see what
least
happens.
focus
Allow her to
on some of
respond.
the
Let's see what happens.
issues.
I'd like to know, Anderson, why aren't you bringing up the emails? I'd like to know. Why aren't you
We
getting
brought up
to
the
bottom?
emails.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't. And it hasn't been finished at all.
Ken Karpowitz has a question.
It's nice to 1-on-3.
Howie, what'd you make of that?
It was Trump attacking Hillary, deflecting Hillary, going back at him, and expanding the, oh, you don't only respect women, you've been attacking blacks and Latinos and Muslims and the disabled, all of which pleases her base. I agree with Chris. I don't know that Donald Trump brought a lot of new voters into the tent, but he was much more aggressive. And here's the thing. Many top Republicans have been bailing on this guy. He needed to convey a sense that he's stabilizing his campaign. He might have done that since he did gain strength in the last hour. Depends how many people stayed up for the whole thing, Megyn.
Right.
Yeah, he's got to do addition. That's all about addition, as Stuart Stevens keeps saying. Guys, great to see you both.
Good to see you.
So tonight, the Kelly File is polling its own focus group made up of only undecided Missouri voters. On the screen there are 3 different colored lines that correspond to each of the 3 groups. The red line shows the reaction of leaning Trump voters. The yellow line are those who are still undecided. The green line leans Clinton. Joining me now, CEO of Luntz Global, Frank Luntz. Hey, Frank.
It's been a great group here in St. Louis. They walked in here undecided. But how many of you, just before this debate began, how many of you leaned towards Donald Trump? Raise your hands. Only a few of you. How many of you leaned towards Hillary Clinton before this started? Now tell me, which candidate had the biggest impact on your vote tonight? Who says Hillary Clinton? Who says Donald Trump? Wow. I want a word or phrase, starting right over there, to describe Donald Trump's performance.
Still feel he's skirting the issues.
I feel he is much improved.
Calm and strong.
He had practice.
He seemed more presidential.
Much improved. Sure of himself.
Much improved.
The bar set so low for him.
More researched.
Now explain to me Hillary Clinton's performance tonight.
Inclusive.
I still think she sounds disingenuous.
Frustrated.
Not worthy of my vote.
Same old, same old.
Typical.
Not a single new idea.
She's educated and she's got a plan.
Frustrated.
Experience-based. Nothing new, and she didn't apologize to any of those women that she bashed.
Now this is significant. Megyn, I want to play for you one of the most important moments. It was at the very beginning of the debate. It's Donald Trump explaining the language that he used that has been so controversial over the last 48 hours. You're going to see 2 segments. One of him at his best explaining it, and then abutted to it, him at his worst. Let's play the tape.
I apologize to my family. I apologize to the American people. Certainly, I'm not proud of it. But this is locker room talk. You know, when we have a world where you have ISIS chopping off heads, where you have, and frankly, drowning people in steel cages, where you have wars and horrible, horrible sights all over.
Just for the record, though, are you saying that what you said on that bus 11 years ago, that you did not actually kiss women without consent or grope women without consent?
I have great respect for women. Nobody has more respect for women than I do.
So for the record, you're saying you never did that?
I said things that, frankly, you hear these things are said.
So here's my question. Has he finally put it behind him? Did this debate serve as a pivot? Yes or no?
It should be, because what somebody says against what somebody actually does is different.
No, I don't think it should be put behind him. I mean, this is an issue of character. I have daughters. Obviously, I cannot believe.
My thing is, because when Trump, it's like he said, it's locker room talk. I've been around some great buddies who've never done anything wrong.
I would like to think that men do not say that in locker rooms, and if they do, maybe we should have a woman running things.
Again, I feel we cannot regulate morality, but we need to make sure that the person leading our country is a person that's going to be respectful.
So we're going to come back with a little more information from our group. But Megan, this is the first time of the 3 debates that there has been any genuine movement. And I have to acknowledge something here. I thought that it was all over for Donald Trump. And when these people walked in here, I was pretty sure of it. Based on their response, and I hope to bring some more of it to you later on in the show, I have to change my mind. I actually think that tonight was so significant that he is back in this race.
Frank Luntz, thank you, sir. Well, we showed you how Donald Trump handled the initial question about the controversial 2005 comments. Here's how Mrs. Clinton then responded.
You know, with prior Republican nominees for president, I disagreed with them on politics, policies, principles, but I never questioned their fitness to serve. Donald Trump is different. I said starting back in June that he was not fit to be president and commander-in-chief. And many Republicans and independents have said the same thing. What we all saw and heard on Friday was Donald talking about women, what he thinks about women, what he does to women, and he has said that the video doesn't represent who he is, but I think it's clear to anyone who heard it that it represents exactly who he is.
Katrina Pearson is the Trump campaign national spokesperson. Katrina, good to see you tonight.
Great to be here. Thank you.
So what of that? Because she's trying to expand it beyond the tape. She's saying, yes, the women is a big issue for him, but where was his apology for the Khan family? Where was his apology for the Judge Curiel and all the others you heard her list?
Well, Megan, I'll remind everyone that Mr. Trump did give a statement early on saying that he had said some things that he regretted.
But it was generic. There was no apology.
It was very
to those
generic
people.
because there was a number of things that he has done in fighting, because he has been fighting. He's been fighting against both sides of the establishment. He's been fighting against the media. And he says, and when you have those contentious debates, you do say things you regret, and he did.
But it wasn't a debate when he attacked Judge Curiel and just said he can't decide my case because he's of Hispanic heritage.
Well, and that was mainly because of his position on the border, and we leave out the context of what he was talking about, specifically his policies.
He was saying because he had Hispanic parents and Trump wants to build a wall, he couldn't get a fair hearing before this judge.
Right, because of the affiliations that this judge had with organizations who are against Mr. Trump.
That's not what Trump said. That's what you said.
No,
you made a better argument
than he did. That's why he made the statement.
No, that isn't. He was asked repeatedly, and he said he's a Mexican, which he wasn't. He's from Indiana. My point, I don't want to relitigate it all of it, but her point is, it's not just women. He said so many controversial things, and on the women front, let me ask you, because you come on the show all the time. You obviously love Trump, and you're a great defender of his. But when you saw that tape, what was your reaction?
Look, I have 2 brothers. I was in sports, so I was around a lot of athletes. This truly was 2 men who had what they thought was a private conversation talking about an attractive woman. He calls it locker room banter.
Do your brothers talk about grabbing women by the genitals?
I don't know what they talk about specifically, because when I walk into the room, they stop those discussions.
You know your brothers. You believe that they talk about grabbing women by the genitals and laughing about it and doing whatever they want to them?
But what I will say is I've also been around a lot of famous athletes and Hollywood celebrity types. And that is the entertainment culture. This was just discussion. This was 2 guys having a discussion. Nothing actually took place. They were words, and they were 11 years ago. The bigger point here...
He was 59 years old then. It's not like he was 20.
Well, no, absolutely, but he's still two men having a discussion, a private discussion. Megan, we can have private discussions. Women have private discussions, even at my age of 40.
I've never had a discussion like that in my life.
Maybe not like that, but we do have discussions in private that would embarrass us in public. We do these kinds of things when we think we are alone, and that's exactly what this was.
Do you think that he can recover with women, you know, based on what we saw? Tonight he said, I respect women, and the audience erupted in laughter.
No, I absolutely do think he can, because there are a lot of women who've already supported Mr. Trump. We look in the primaries, he won with women overwhelmingly.
But those are Republicans.
And we do see a lot of women supporting him now. There are several former Democrat women who are now working on the campaign in support of Mr. Trump, because a lot of these women, they're not wanting to elect a father figure or even a role model. They knew Mr. Trump was not an altar boy, because that's what this country needs. They need someone that's going to fight for them, someone that can break up the monopoly, stop the global corruption, and stop the reign of career politicians.
Have you ever heard him use terms like that? Have you ever heard him refer to a woman by a derogatory term?
He does not talk like that to people. This was a private discussion between two men.
How about Mike Pence? Is there any chance Mike Pence is not staying on as the vice presidential nominee?
Oh, not at all.
There are rumors to that effect.
There are always rumors. Look, this is the Trump campaign. This is not true at all. 100%.
They're united.
They are united.
And as for those Republicans who are abandoning Trump and who have been highly critical of him, including Reince Priebus, who hasn't abandoned but has been highly critical, what say you?
Well, I say there are a lot of Republicans who are really just looking out for themselves. You know, I think a lot of them felt like they wanted to have some say. Some of them are running their own races. But what I will say is this is the problem that we have had, and those Republicans really need to think about why the Republican primary voters supported Trump. Democrats rallied behind President Clinton as he was engaging in very explicit activities in the Oval Office. These are words Mr. Trump used. There's a reason why voters support Mr. Trump.
Great to see you.
Great to be here.
Well, while Trump was challenged on his 2005 comments, Hillary Clinton tonight had to answer for a document dump from WikiLeaks. The group released what it is calling transcripts of Mrs. Clinton's paid private speeches, the ones she did not want to disclose for months and months in the primary, including remarks where she said, quote, politics is like sausage being made. It's unsavory, and it's always been that way, but we usually end up where we need to be. But if everybody's watching, you know, all of the backroom discussions and the deals, you know, then people get a little nervous, to say the least. So you need both a public and a private position. Here's how that played out tonight.
This question involves WikiLeaks, one line in particular in which you, Secretary Clinton, purportedly say you need both a public and private position on certain issues. So, two from Virginia asks, is it okay for politicians to be two-faced? Is it acceptable for a politician to have a private stance on issues?
Right. As I recall, that was something I said about Abraham Lincoln after having seen the wonderful Steven Spielberg movie called Lincoln. President Lincoln was trying to convince some people. He used some arguments. Convincing other people, he used other arguments. That was a great, I thought, a great display of presidential leadership.
Now she's blaming the lie on the late, great Abraham Lincoln. That's one that I haven't. Okay, Honest Abe. Honest Abe never lied. That's the good thing. That's the big difference between Abraham Lincoln and you. That's a big, big difference.
Joining us now to respond, DNC committee member and Hillary supporter Robert Zimmerman. Robert, you got to give him that. That was a good line. It was a quick retort.
Hey, look, the reality is anytime Donald Trump quotes Abraham Lincoln, it's funny. He's more inclined to quote Andrew Dice Clay. But it doesn't change the reality that whenever the issue of WikiLeaks come up, and let's be clear, they're not authenticated by this network or any other network. Whenever WikiLeaks comes up,
but she's not denying the content.
But the bigger point is the idea that Vladimir Putin and the Russians are trying to, in fact, change the dialogue in this conversation to help Donald Trump is the bigger issue. And the fact that Donald Trump keeps calling Vladimir Putin a leader, this man is a dictator and a murderer, and he keeps praising him as a leader, that's the issue. And that's why Donald Trump made very few references to WikiLeaks, because it's exposed.
So
he's just exposed his relationship with Vladimir Putin.
You bring up Russia and that whole exchange about Vladimir Putin. One of the exchanges they had was over Syria, and he accused Hillary of failing on the job when it came to Syria. And she pointed out, she said, I wasn't in the administration when President Obama drew that red line, and that's not true, Robert. Immediately we checked. August of 2012 is when Obama drew the red line. She did not leave office until February of 2013. She was there, and you tell me why she should not be held accountable for that policy.
Let's be clear. Donald Trump supported the invasion into Syria and supported.
But this is about her. This is about her.
But the point is the hypocrisy of his position, where he lied about his position about Iraq, where he supported the war and said he didn't, and he lied about his position on Syria.
But you're dodging.
I'm not dodging.
She was there when President Obama drew the red line.
Well, she was making reference. Let's be clear about this, Megan. She was making reference to the point where he had his press conference and backed off from the red line. That's the point. I think if she were there, she felt very strongly about pursuing an aggressive policy in Syria, and it's a very tough situation because there were no easy options. And the fact is, Donald Trump...
Okay, I got it. But let me ask you about the women, too, because they made a big deal today. Trump brought out the 4 women, these accusers of Bill Clinton's, and he is painting Hillary as their enabler. In particular, he points to, Juanita Broaddrick, who claims that she was raped by Bill Clinton and threatened by Hillary thereafter. Paula Jones, who claimed that she was sexually assaulted by him. He paid her out $850,000 to settle the case. And then there was Kathleen Willey, who claimed she was assaulted by the president in the Oval Office and that Hillary made her life a living hell thereafter. The last person was a little girl who was 12, and Hillary represented her alleged rapist, and then later was caught on tape laughing about the case in what sounded like a very callous way. Why shouldn't the American people who are offended by Trump's comments about women be equally offended by Hillary and Bill's treatment of these women?
Well, first of all, let's be factual about this. She was not laughing about the rapist at all. She was laughing about the polygraph test, and she was the lawyer assigned to that case regarding the rapist. The bigger point here simply is the fact that Donald Trump brought these allegations into the debate just demeans his own candidacy and demeans his own credentials. And if he thinks he's going to gain women by blaming Hillary Clinton, who was also in fact hurt by these situations, I think just diminishes his credibility entirely. So ultimately, this tactic failed because, Megan, the idea that he was trying to blame Hillary Clinton is in fact a failed strategy, and he'll lose even more support amongst women.
Great to see you.
Good to be with you.
In August 2015, you may recall, yours truly asked Mr. Trump a very detailed question about his relationship with women. And up next, Charles Krauthammer is here on an issue that seems to have come full circle. Plus, when we come back, new fallout from the moment that got such an audience reaction, the moderators had to tell the crowd to settle down. Plus, Kellyanne Conway is here. Don't go away.
It's just words, folks. It's just words. Those words, I've been hearing them for many years. I heard them when they were running for the Senate in New York, where Hillary was going to bring back jobs to upstate New York, and she failed.
Breaking tonight, new fallout from one of the most dramatic moments of the night. First, Donald Trump brought 4 women into the debate hall, the accusers who challenged Bill Clinton with sexual assault and worse. And then Trump launched this attack from the debate stage.
I'm not proud of it, but that was something that happened. If you look at Bill Clinton, far worse, minor words, and his was action. His was what he's done to women. There's never been anybody in the history of politics in this nation that's been so abusive to women. Hillary Clinton attacked those same women and attacked them viciously. 4 of them here tonight. One of the women, who is a wonderful woman, at 12 years old, was raped at 12. Her client, she represented, got him off, and she's seen laughing on 2 separate occasions, laughing at the girl who was raped. Kathy Shelton, that young woman, is here with us tonight. So don't tell me about words, but what President Clinton did, he was impeached, he lost his license to practice law, he had to pay an $850,000 fine to one of the women, Paula Jones, who's also here tonight. And I will tell you that when Hillary brings up a point like that, and she talks about words that I said 11 years ago, I think it's disgraceful, and I think she should be ashamed of herself, if you want to know the truth.
Can we please hold the applause?
Joining me now, Trump campaign manager Kellyanne Conway. Kellyanne, great to see you.
Thank you, Megan.
So that was a dramatic moment inside the debate hall tonight. The downside potentially is that it backfires on him. That's what some people have been saying. Don't play the Bill/Hillary women card, because it could come back on you. What do you say?
Well, these women wanted to be heard, and we were very happy to have them here as our guests tonight. I'm really proud of Donald Trump for raising it in exactly the right way. which is this, Megyn. How did Hillary Clinton treat these women after the fact? Did she agree that they are among the, quote, sexual assault victims that she said deserve to be heard and to be believed, or are we excluding those who have had contact with her husband?
Just for the record, 2 out of the 3 women there who were accusing him had given sworn testimony under oath that Bill Clinton never touched them. So there are real questions in those cases about whether they really are victims. I pass no individual judgment on it, just that there are questions that's never been proven in a court of law.
Well, you and I both know that sexual assault victims are often very afraid to come forward, afraid to tell the truth. They sometimes feel like it's their fault, which of course is not true if they truly are sexual assault victims.
Why would Hillary rush to aid them when they had given sworn testimony that he didn't touch them?
Well, it's not
and
just
then
that.
In one case, 21 years later, came out and said, oh, yes, he did.
It's not just that. I mean, Juanita Broderick, in the pre-debate press availability that we allowed tonight, Megyn, she just very poignantly said, Bill Clinton raped me and Hillary Clinton attacked me 3 weeks later. And I just heard her say it to CBS News again. This is her chance to tell her story. And look, let me make very clear. The whole point here is how did Hillary Clinton treat them? If she's going to stand up and be some kind of Joan of Arc for all women, I've been fighting for women and children, she claims, for decades. And Donald Trump is right. First of all, where's the product? Where's the deliverable? Why are millions of women in poverty, millions of women without health?
I'll let you make that point, but just to fact check you on Juanita Broderick, she alleged that in 1978 he had raped her, but she had denied that under oath repeatedly. It took her 21 years to change her story. There were no witnesses, there were no charges brought, there was never a lawsuit, and she told the FBI investigator for Ken Starr that no one from the White House had ever pressured her to stay silent and that there had been no intimidation.
Well, she's not on trial here, number one, but number two.
Well, but you're offering her up as somebody Hillary Clinton should have gone and supported, and I'm telling you, even she was saying for 21 years it didn't happen.
I'm offering her up as somebody who Hillary Clinton should not have attacked, according to Juanita Broderick's story. But let me make very clear, why didn't Hillary Clinton say 1/10 of what you just said? She totally ignored all 4 of those women tonight, including the woman who was raped at 12 years old, not in dispute, by a 42-year-old man that Hillary Clinton represented.
Defense lawyer for her.
Right, and she also, you've read the case, I hope, Megyn. Hillary Rodham, also as that attorney, said that the girl had fantasized, and you know, she made this 12-year-old girl seem like this over-sexualized, being aggressive to men. And this was before the rape shield laws, which, as you and I, as fully recovered attorneys, know. Thank God there are rape shield laws now.
No, that's true.
You can't blame and shame them. And so this was 2 years before they had that in Arkansas, as I understand.
Let me just shift with you and talk about Trump and the tape in 2005. What was your reaction when you saw that tape?
My reaction is very similar to Melania Trump's reaction. This is disgusting. This is offensive. I'm not going to excuse what he said on the tapes, and I'm really glad that he apologized. I'm really glad that he's asked for forgiveness, because that's what people in that situation should do. But I also have to always look at the full measure of an individual, no matter who he or she is. And I know Donald Trump to be very gracious and a gentleman.
He's never referred to you as any of those.
Never. And I've never heard
the C word.
No.
Anything like that.
Well, I wouldn't be sitting here in that capacity.
Okay.
I would just be
the
having...
P word. I don't know. There's so many to choose from.
Oh my goodness. No.
This is our presidential politics today.
No, and I think what Donald Trump said on Friday night, everybody should go back and really take a strong, hard look at what he said on Friday night in his video post when he apologized. What he said also was, as he's gone around this country the last year and a half or so, he's learned so much from people, and he's running for those people. And he's going to continue, he and Mike Pence will continue to run on behalf of those folks who don't have a voice, those forgotten men, those forgotten women, who are looking to them to bring back jobs and to defeat ISIS. And he did apologize, and I think that's the measure of a person. But also, I think tonight what he said was very important also, which is that there's a difference between words and actions. And as you can appreciate...
But there are allegations that he took actions against women as well.
But you're talking about a tape. Look, there may be,
on the tape, on the tape, he is admitting that he hit on a married woman.
He is saying that everybody can listen to the tape for themselves and draw the same conclusions, but I'm telling you,
he said I went after her like a B word and that she was married, about Nancy O'Dell from Access Hollywood.
Oh, I don't know who it was about. I can't confirm that for sure, so I don't want to go there. But I'm just telling you who he is, and who he is as a client, and who he is as a husband and a father and a grandfather. I'm with him because I'm with him shoulder to shoulder, and I've been with him many times alone. I find him to be nothing gracious. Let me tell you something. There are members of Congress, current and former, who have rubbed up against women and who have put their tongues in their mouths uninvited. Maybe when I was younger and prettier, that may have happened to me. In other words, these people on their high horses, you know, are accusing him of being this awful awful person, and really, the words I think that were most harmful is when everybody's running around saying he's condoning sexual assault. No, he's not. And that's exactly why you have to see the difference between.
Well, it's because he said I grab him by the genitals.
What he's saying, and those are guys talking. I think it's horrible talk. I think it's offensive
Not every guy
talk.
talks like that.
I didn't say that. I did not say that. I said those are two guys talking. We know who the two guys were, and he has said he didn't mean it that way. He's sorry for it. He's a changed man. He doesn't speak that way.
Well, one of these days I'm going to have you back. We're going to talk about those losers in Congress.
Yes, let's do that.
And we'll out them and we'll work on them next.
We can name them and shame them.
I'm
yeah, guys. Shouldn't have done it.
She became very powerful. Sucks for you. Great to see you. So in addition to the issue of Trump's remarks and Bill Clinton's past, Donald Trump also went after Mrs. Clinton on the email issue, much to the delight of his supporters, accusing her of destroying evidence and suggesting she dodged a bullet.
People have been, their lives have been destroyed for doing 1/5 of what you've done. And it's a disgrace. And honestly, you ought to be ashamed of yourself.
Secretary Clinton, I want to follow up on that. I'm going to let you talk about emails.
Because everything he just said is absolutely false, but I'm not surprised. Really? In the first debate,
and the audience needs to calm down here.
I told people that it would be impossible to be fact-checking Donald all the time. I'd never get to talk about anything I want to do and how we're going to really make lives better for people. So, once again, go to HillaryClinton.com. We have literally Trump. You can fact-check him in real time. Last time at the first debate, we had millions of people fact-checking, so I expect we'll have millions more fact-checking because, you know, it's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
That was a popular moment for some inside of the debate hall. And joining me now to discuss it, attorney David Wohl, who's a Trump supporter, and Austin Goolsbee, who served as President Obama's former chief economist. Great to see you both. So, David, as a Trump supporter, I mean, the crowd loved that line. Oh Even those who like Hillary Clinton know she did wrong when it comes to those emails, and she misled about it.
And one of the first things he says he's going to do is appoint a special prosecutor, which should have been done months ago, to look into this. I mean, are you kidding me? There's 33,000 emails deleted. We know that everybody involved in her home server gets immunity. I've been practicing law 27 years. I've never seen a case where everyone's given immunity in exchange for nothing. You don't have to testify. You're given immunity to kill the case against Hillary Clinton.
And you get an agreement that the FBI will destroy your computer.
Yeah, destroy your computer afterwards. And they destroy the cell phones that contain top secret and classified information with a sledgehammer. Bleach spit on the entire server, wiped everything out. Even God can't recover it. Outrageous, and he's going to go after her.
Austin, let me ask you, because we saw a much more aggressive Donald Trump tonight. You know, he was on his heels a little on the women issue. He handled it as best he could, but then it was, I mean, he just kept going after her. You tell me whether we saw a better Donald Trump and a better performance by Donald Trump tonight.
You know, I thought at several points along there he seemed a little unhinged, and I thought he'd probably not help in his case with Republican women voters. The times when he's making faces, interrupting, and then it seemed like he kind of got up and was looming over her, going to try to intimidate her. I thought at several points I will give Donald Trump credit. I did not think after the first debate that he would be able to talk about serious policy issues at any length. At several points in there, I thought there was a good discussion, a debate between them about tax policy. I thought there were the beginnings of a good discussion about some of the foreign policy. So I think he did okay for himself on that. But I really think that these issues of temperament he did not put to rest. And he was trying, you could see him just egging, just trying to get her to give some indication that she was upset or to show that she had a bad temperament, and she wouldn't take the bait.
So let me ask you about that, because I think, you know, a lot of Trump supporters saw him getting in the moderators' faces like, hey, it's 3-on-1, right? Like, well, great. And interrupting Hillary a fair amount. The moderators had to stand him down a couple times, and they were like, yeah, there's our fighter. You know, that's part of why they love him.
Yeah,
they're sick of not having fighters on their behalf, like sending these guys into Washington.
I thought
but so let me speak to that, but then also speak to whether you think, what about these middle-of-the-road women? Hold on a second.
We need to take off.
Here's Hillary
so
on
that
her
we
plane.
can
Let's take a
actually
quick listen.
Have some drinks served. My entire team is waiting for this airplane.
How do you think you did? Was it tougher than you expected?
No, I pretty much saw what I expected to see, and that's why the first thing I said was this is something that I've been saying since June, that he's not fit to be president and commander-in-chief, and there are a lot of people who said it before, and increasingly more adding that to the chorus.
And what did President Clinton say to you afterwards? How did the president feel you did?
You were talking to a voter, and he was like right behind you. Could you tell that?
I could tell, yes. I could. Well, it was a very small space, and I tried to give him space when he was talking to people. I would go back and lean up against my stool, but he was very present.
Was there one?
Were you surprised by the tone?
We're going to take off, and then we're going to bring you Robbie.
Surprised by the tone of the debate and some of the people Donald Trump invited? Were you surprised by that fact?
Nothing surprises me about him, really, Dan. I was surprised.
Hillary Clinton saying she got what she expected tonight. Let's just pick it up there, David. She's making an issue of what we were just talking about, him walking around her chair and so on in the debate hall. And the question was whether that's going to play with sort of middle-of-the-road
I thought he was
voters.
assertive, not aggressive. I thought he had a commanding performance on all the issues. He was intelligent. He, instead of yelling and shouting like he did and interrupting the first debate, he really sort of had this passive-aggressive approach, letting her sort of flame out in front of him and then taking control of the debate. And let's face it, the moderators at times were agitators and were going after him, in my view, much more so than they did with her. But I thought overall, Trump in a TKO. I really think he won this one.
Austin, the moderators did go after Trump more than they went after Hillary. Having been a moderator in one of these debates, it's like sometimes you have to jump in because you got to get him sort of back on the question you asked, which they tried to do. Go ahead, your thoughts.
Well, I thought that they were going after both the candidates. That is not true that they only went after Donald Trump. The thing that they did more to Donald Trump than they did to her is tell him he's over his time and it's not his turn to speak. And they needed to do that because Donald Trump do this thing where he gives an answer, then while she gives her answer, he interrupts her answer, and then he demands a second answer to the question. And they basically said, no, you can't do that. And he got mad at that.
I thought she had a Candy Crowley moment when she was describing why sometimes we give an indication or we telegraph our hits on ISIS before we do it.
Yep.
She started explaining this is how we do it.
She was in the debate.
Yeah, she was in the debate.
She got some criticism for being in the debate.
But,
Great to see you
Megan,
guys.
Look, here's what we have here tonight. It's a conspiracy, and the conspiracy is the moderators are against Trump, the FBI's against Trump, Hillary Clinton's against Trump, it's a conspiracy that Donald Trump has found the accusers of Bill Clinton, and why didn't Hillary Clinton respond to those accusers? And it's just one after another to try to take the focus off of where it has been, which are Donald Trump's missteps.
Which is that tape that we all saw so many times. Great to see you both.
Thank you.
So, near the beginning of tonight's debate, the moderator, Anderson Cooper, noted that over the last 48 hours, this entire 2016 race became about one thing: the 2005 Trump remarks, and on a larger level, his relationship with women. You would have thought it was the first time this issue came up, as though this moment in 2015 never happened. Watch. Mr. Trump, one of the things people love about you is you speak your mind and you don't use a politician's filter. However, that is not without its downsides, in particular when it comes to women. You've called women you don't like fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account...
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
No, it wasn't. Your Twitter account...
Thank you.
For the record, it was well beyond Rosie O'Donnell.
Yes, I'm sure it was.
Your Twitter account has several disparaging comments about women's looks. You once told a contestant on Celebrity Apprentice it would be a pretty picture to see her on her knees. Does that sound to you like the temperament of a man we should elect as president? And how will you answer the charge from Hillary Clinton, who is likely to be the Democratic nominee, that you are part of the war on women?
I think the big problem this country has is being politically correct. I've been... And frankly, what I say, and oftentimes it's fun, it's kidding, we have a good time, what I say is what I say. And honestly, Megyn, if you don't like it, I'm sorry. I've been very nice to you, although I could probably maybe not be based on the way you have treated me, but I wouldn't do that. But you know what?
Joining me now, Charles Krauthammer, a syndicated columnist and Fox News contributor. Charles, good to see you. So it's been really remarkable to see the damage that the women issue has done to Trump just in the past month, when all of these issues were raised in August of 2015. Your thoughts?
Well, he showed himself as a reformed man. I'm not sure there are a lot of people who bought it. But look, I think this debate reminds me of the famous headline in the Harvard Crimson, Harvard beats Yale 29-29. That was a football game where Harvard was a huge underdog and had a comeback in the fourth quarter. It was a very clever headline and a famous one. Look, Donald Trump went into this debate with his campaign hanging by a thread, hemorrhaging, with governors, Republican senators, members of Congress running away. And had he not done well in this debate, his campaign was over. And that's why I think it turned out to be sort of on points, on merits, roughly a draw. But that for him is like for the Harvard football team. That was a win because it salvages his campaign. He's able to go on. And I think the effect it might have, I heard earlier people said, well, it didn't expand the tent. It didn't exactly expand his appeal to women, etc. But that's not what his task was. His task tonight was to save his campaign by stopping the hemorrhaging in the GOP. And I think we might see that over the next few days, where instead of a mass flight for the exits, and that might be reduced as a result of the fact that he had good moments and essentially in the second half of the debate had a more dominant presence.
So where does that take us from here? He saves the campaign, but how does it look to you with 30 days left to go?
Right, but I mean, the downside is when you're running behind as he is, and the gap was increasing before the tape business, you can't waste a debate. You can't waste a week just holding your ground, which is what he did. So I think in that sense, he's got a lot of ground to make up, and he's lost a lot of time.
What did you make of that tape, Charles, of Trump on that bus in 2005?
Well, it sounded fatal. To me, I must say I was one of the few who was not shocked at all, because I've always thought that is who Donald Trump is. And it's usually the hidden tapes and the hot mic stuff that reveals what a person is. I was kind of shocked by how shocked so many people were, because there were so many other offenses in the past that Trump had committed that were worse. But here's what I think is the effect of the debate. In the 48 hours before, the only issue, the only discussion in the country was about the tape and would he survive. At the end of 90 minutes, that became one issue out of 9 or 10. In a sense, the tape was contextualized as one problem among the many, as opposed to this overwhelming issue that was enveloping and crushing the campaign. That's the reason I think for Trump it was a win, because he came out looking different from when he came in. When he came in, you thought to yourself, how can this man even show his face after a revelation like that? And he came out normalized.
Is there anything you think that could stop her now? I mean, do you think so? He's restarted the engine, but so many people say he can't do it, the Electoral College, and so on and so forth. Do you believe that? Do you believe this race is over, or do you believe Trump really could close this now if he gets a few breaks cut in his way?
I don't think he can close it if things just continue in a normal way. and I don't think he does close it. What is true, however, is if there are WikiLeaks revelations, I mean, it's hard to imagine, but let's say a pay-for-play instance with the Clinton Foundation of clear, maybe even criminal-looking corruption. I think that's extremely unlikely. But if you get an exogenous event like that, then I think it's possible. So in that sense, the campaign continues, hoping for a lightning strike. But it's equally probable that he could be hit by a lightning strike of another tape discovered somewhere else.
That's right. And you know, everybody's looking right now. But Julian Assange is also looking and says that WikiLeaks will have more disclosures. Charles, it's been an interesting evening. Thank you.
Very. Thank you.
Well, with 2 presidential debates down and less than 1 month to go, I mean, we're voting in 1 month from today. Mark Thiessen and Richard Fowler will appear here next on Where We Go From Here. Don't go away.
Look, I respect his children. His children are incredibly able and devoted, and I think that says a lot about Donald. I don't agree with nearly anything else he says or does, but I do respect that, and I think that is something that as a mother and a grandmother is very important to me.
Well, I consider her statement about my children to be a very nice compliment. I don't know if it was meant to be a compliment, but it is a great. I'm very proud of my children, and they've done a wonderful job, and they've been wonderful, wonderful kids. So I consider that a compliment. I will say this about Hillary. She doesn't quit. She doesn't give up. I respect that.
Ah. After all the anger, tonight's debate ended with that moment. Each candidate saying something nice about each other and then sharing the handshake that was missing at the start of the night. We're also getting some reporting right now that Mr. Trump had a nice call with Mike Pence after the debate. That's significant, given that we were getting reports earlier raising questions about whether Pence would stay with the Trump ticket going forward. It appears the answer is yes. Joining me now to discuss it, Mark Thiessen, an American Enterprise Institute scholar and Fox News contributor, and Richard Fowler, who's a nationally syndicated radio talk show host. Great to see you both. Mark, what do you think?
Nice to see you, Megan. Well, first of all, I like Richard because Richard never gives up. He's a fighter. So it's always good to be on with him.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Mark.
Absolutely. No, we had a nice kumbaya moment at the end, but I think it's not going to stay kumbaya very long. It was very brief. And look, everyone said that Donald Trump was on the ropes coming in, that his campaign was over, and he wasn't on the ropes for very long in that debate. He was landing blows on Benghazi, on emails, on everything else. And the interesting thing about it was that he was, in the first debate, he refused to pivot. Tonight, he was pivoter in chief. He just anytime he was attacked, he would turn around. It was a great moment when he was asked about tweeting at 3 a.m. about Miss Universe, and he said, well, you know what? At 3 a.m. she didn't get the call on Benghazi. Pivot immediately. So he was much more effective tonight, and we'll see. I think he lives to fight another day. It's not over yet.
Richard, it's not over yet, and Trump probably did succeed in energizing his base tonight, who had been feeling pretty dejected, some of them, over the weekend. They may not have held the comments against him as a deal breaker, but had been feeling rejected, I'm sure, by the extent of exodus they'd seen and criticism they'd seen and just nonstop hammering Trump had been taking.
Well, absolutely. I think Trump has definitely had a rough week, Megan. And I agree with him on this point that Hillary Clinton is a fighter. And she's a survivor, and that's who you want to be in the White House, if I were to read my talking points. But even more importantly here, I think what we will see over the next couple of days is what will happen. We haven't seen any polls since this video has been released to the public. We haven't seen any polls to this debate. Will this debate make those polls a wash? That's possible. Or will he tank in places like Ohio, in places like where I'm at tonight, Florida, in places like Virginia, where he needs to win this election? And that's what it's going to come down to. It's going to be a ground game over the next 30 days. And that's where the Clinton campaign is going to succeed. They are excelling at the ground game already. Trump has very few boots on the ground. Clinton has a lot of boots on the ground, and that's going to make the difference in this election.
Mark Thiessen, there was a split between Trump and his running mate on the policy that we should enact in Syria. You're a foreign policy guy. What'd you make of it?
Well, Mike Pence is right. The reality is that the problem we've got in Syria is that Russia is not our friend, and Donald Trump seems to think that Russia is our friend. I mean, Bashar Assad and Russia are not targeting ISIS. He keeps saying that they're going to help us fight ISIS. They're targeting the pro-Western secular opposition, and the reason they're doing that is because their goal is to keep Bashar Assad in power. And the way you get the West to keep Bashar Assad in power is to say, hey, there's a choice between me and ISIS. Which one do you want? So you take out any moderate alternative to Assad. So Assad actually wants to keep ISIS in power because it's the only way he stays in power. And so Trump is wrong, and Mike Pence is 100% right.
I'll give you the final word, Richard.
One point on this is what Mark shows is the problem with this campaign. You have the vice president saying one thing, the Republican Party saying one thing, and the leader of the party, Donald Trump, saying something totally different, which is why it's probable it's going to be really, really hard for them in November to win, both down ballot and the White House.
We shall see. Feels like the race may have shifted a little tonight, but how far did it shift and where did it shift? Only time will tell. Gentlemen, great to see you. Final thoughts when we come back. Don't go away. And speaking of that debate question back in August of 2015, I have written all about it in my new book, Settle for More, which hits bookshelves on November 15th, but you can pre-order it right now at barnesandnoble.com or amazon.com. Everybody's going to be talking about it. There are a lot of great, fun stories, behind-the-scenes stuff about all the people you love at Fox News. Very nice. I think you'll get a kick out of it. Thanks, everybody, for watching. I'm Megyn Kelly. This is the Kelly